We opened with $3,000 in hidden credit card bills, some gambling stuff. That's the concern. That's a huge concern, as you know. We have some prescription stuff. She says it's prescription medication. You can order online prescription medications. I order online for my arthritis medication from time to time. Most of the time I just go pick it up. But that one we have to kind of hold off on because she did say prescription, unless, of course, living in Florida, all that oxycodone stuff, okay? If it's being abused in a way, now that's a concern. But the fact that this is even being hidden, oh, all right, let's hear it.
We've already had our come to Jesus moment. And to preface this, I have been complicit in this because I knew something was up, and I've never wanted to deal with finances. But I'm on it now, so there's that.
We may not want to deal with finances, but we have to deal with it. As we know, right, people, from our earlier bedtime chit-chat story times, we've heard what happens when someone just wants to bury their head in the sand. They say to the other person, hey, you're totally responsible for all the finances. Not everybody could handle that. I could handle that. At this stage of my life, yeah, I could handle being in charge of the finances and doling it out, but I couldn't do it with someone who's going to hide finances behind my back. Absolutely no way.
Hold on. Before all of this, you got to protect yourself. I want you to call the 3 credit reporting bureaus, and I want you to put a freeze on your Social Security number. Okay. So
I have freezes on my account. Yes, I do. I have freezes on my account. It's basically where you call the credit bureaus and you say nobody can rack up new bills, okay, unless you contact me first. Basically, it's a way to prevent fraud.
So that nothing can be opened up in your name. That's not going to fully protect you because y'all are married, but that will at least stop it. If he cares about you and your marriage, he'll do the same thing. He'll freeze it.
Okay.
And that way they have to go through you for anybody to open up any more credit or to make any more charges.
But if his addiction is greater, we all know what's going to happen. The freezing isn't going to happen. They can only freeze their own Social Security number. They can't go to their, you can't force your spouse to freeze their account. I hope that makes sense. I can't be married to somebody and say, I can request my husband freeze his account, but I can't make him do it.
Okay.
Yes.
And that way you haven't slept because this thing is still spinning underneath you, and you have a man in your home that you don't trust that is digging a hole. He's digging a grave for your family. Right?
I got to be honest, family. After having been in relationships with people who just really didn't, care to save money, and I did a video the other day, my 3rd car series Chit-Chat, all right, about buying my $26,000 Toyota Corolla LE hybrid. I knew I lived beneath my means, but damn, I didn't realize I was living that far beneath my means. And nothing changes. It's good to know. I mean, I knew I was beneath my means. That I clearly understood. But it was when I decided to really detail how to get this car paid off over 6 months. I realized I actually live on approximately 38.5%. That's what I live on of my take-home income. 38.5%. Explains why I can pay off a car in 6 months, right? I couldn't even imagine going back to my old financial life. Okay? Of just constantly feeling broke, constantly being with someone who just didn't care about where the money was being spent. And it doesn't mean you don't have a good time with your money. I mean, hell, I just bought a vehicle, right? Put a 4K dash cam in it and bought a curling iron. All right. Got my Chi curling iron and a nice blow dryer that I wanted. So it's not that you do without, but to get to that point, you have to be willing to do without for possibly a few years, maybe even many years before you get to the point where you can afford something that's not going to break the bank and it's not going to disrupt your savings plan. Took me 9 years following divorce to get to this point. So, I listen to these calls now that I'm, on the other side of the rainbow, so to speak, where I can afford things that I need to afford, And once the car is paid off in 6 months, I'll go back to putting $16,000 to $20,000 a year into my retirement. I look at it with through a different lens, I guess. And being financially broke and being with someone who does not see money the way you see it, it is exhausting. It's like a never-ending treadmill. And once you finally get off of it, whether it's you and a spouse that got off of it together, whether it was just you on your own efforts, okay? I mean, you just don't want to go back to it. I don't want to go back to sticking my head in the sand and not knowing where the money's going. And what you begin to find is, there is a price we have to pay for the financial mistakes that we made. There is a price. We have to do without for a while. We may have to do without for a long time. But if you're willing to pay that price and make things right again through your efforts, nothing new to this channel. I hold a full-time job and about a 10-hour week part-time job. I've also worked summer school. Okay. If you're willing to do your penance, so to speak, and you do it over enough years, you can right your ship. You can make it good again. But, sometimes I wonder, would I be in this position if I had a spouse, say like this lady has? Somebody who's hiding money behind your back. No, I would not be in this position. I don't think I would have been in this position if my husband hadn't left, to be really honest. I don't think I'd be in the financial position I'm in today. I'm going to say 99.9%. No, I'd not be in this financial position today. It takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes a lot of forgiving yourself for your mistakes, even forgiving yourself for being with the wrong person. Yes, even forgiving yourself for being with the wrong person. I chose the wrong person. It is what it is. But I would not ever go back there again. Absolutely not. Now that I'm on this side and I can see that if I really want something, even if it's a big ticket item, I can get it, and I can get it in, a tenth of the time, and I can get it without stress because I'm making $2,200 to $2,300 a month car payments right now for 6 months. Yeah, $2,200, $2,300 a month car payments. Easy peasy, in fact, not even sweating over it. I would never be able to do that if I was with someone who was hiding money, who was hiding credit card bills, who, had an addiction to gambling, shopping. It's exhausting being broke. The energy spent on being broke. It's exhausting. It makes my head hurt. It makes my head spin.
Yeah. And this at least takes the shovel out of his hand for a second. So you can then begin to exhale and figure out what's your next step.
Back it up.
He's digging a grave for your family. Right?
Yeah.
And this at least takes the shovel out of his hand for a second. So you can then
Yeah, he wants them to freeze their accounts. Freeze the credit card accounts.
Begin to exhale and figure out what's your next step.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to call the credit. There's 3 reporting bureaus. We're going to call them. Just Google them. Experian. I forgot off the top of my head.
Equifax, Experian, TransUnion.
And TransUnion. And call and just put a freeze on it. Okay. So nobody's taking out any more credit. No one's racking up any more charges.
But that is all dependent on what level of addiction he has. It's all dependent on how he views his relationship. Okay. So some people, when they're done with they're out. They're done with the relationship. They're over it. What happens to it from there on out, they don't care. There's so much. It's more than just, and I'm sure John knows this. All right. I mean, seriously, but it's not as easy as just take the cards and freeze them. I mean, it's a step so that other people can't break into the card. And it's supposed to be a set that makes it harder for you to apply. Because for once you freeze a card and you have to apply for that card, you typically have to call in. You have to tell Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, hey, I'm going to be applying for a card. In other words, more checks have to be done. But it still doesn't stop you from ultimately getting a credit card if that's what you want. And it sure as heck doesn't stop you from overspending.
Okay.
Okay.
And then no, we're not cashing out anything. We're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're going to sit down, and while you're on the phone with those credit agencies, I want you to and he's with you. We're going to pull credit reports instantly, and we're going to find out how bad the damage is. I guarantee.
Ooh, remember family on the other bedtime chit-chat story time just a few weeks back? And I believe it was viewer Parlor that was saying, one of our viewers here was saying, what was he said, Parlor was saying that people should have their credit reports pulled. All right, that couples should not be in for financial surprises. You know, it's not the debt that hurts you. So, well, I mean, it can, but we'll backtrack here for a minute. It's not the debt that hurts you so much as the denial of debt, or one party trying to swim their way out of debt while another one's swimming them further into debt. I can marry somebody with debt. They'd be very fortunate because I have none. All right. So we could work to tackle their debt together. But no way would it work to tackle their debt together if they're like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to keep on spending. That would not work. Or if I said I'm going to spend, he's trying to dig us out of the hole, and all I'm doing is putting a hole in the bucket, right?
Guarantee you it's worse than you think it is.
Okay.
And she needs to brace herself that it may be worse than what it is. And she also needs to brace herself that her credit may be worse than what she thinks it is.
Almost never in this kind of situation where you catch somebody is it all out on the table on conversation one. Almost never.
I think also to pull each other's credit, I think it's the approach. Never would I say to a loved one, all right, once a year, we're going to have the punishment stick come out. We're going to pull your credit and see what you've screwed up over the last year. I wouldn't want to be with somebody like that. Okay. But assuming that we have an honest and open relationship with each other, what we're going to do is we're going to pull our credit. Okay. We're going to make sure that, what you think you owe and what I think you owe and what you think I owe. And, you get my point, right? That there are no surprises. And if you're in a good relationship, there really shouldn't be any surprises. It's kind of like this. It's like job evaluations, okay? You work for an employer, and I had an employer years ago tell me, your annual job performance, this was told to me years ago by an employer, by a boss. Your annual job performance, the big one, not the little ones, the big one that comes up like once a year, okay, that's why it's called annual, I guess, should not be a surprise. If you have a good boss, there should be nothing on there that you've not already been notified about, that you've already been told to correct, work on, pursue, things like that, okay? It shouldn't be a negative. It's unless your boss has told you to do stuff and you flat refuse to do it, then it might not be so pleasant, okay? But if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're showing sincere effort and you're running your position like the professional you are, your annual job evaluation shouldn't be a review. In fact, it should actually be kind of a, come to Jesus moment, and we realize we're on the same page and we're working together. We have the same goals. We're lining up what we want to have coming up. In other words, it shouldn't be this huge surprise. Credit reports, I think, should be looked at the same way. If we've been honest with each other all year about what we're buying, if we've been honest with each other about where we've opened up charge cards, what our paychecks are, okay, there shouldn't be anything surprising. There might be a little something on there like, oh yeah, you know what, I forgot. I stuck your iPod on there at Best Buy for a Christmas present that I was hiding from you. We ain't going to divorce over that, okay, a few $100. It shouldn't be... Remember that video, family, about a month ago? That woman who ran up $85,000 in hidden credit card bills that her husband doesn't know about? Okay. That's the one where our viewer Parlor wrote in and said, an annual credit report might not be a bad idea. All right. If you've been really open and honest in your relationship, pulling an annual credit report should be no big deal. In fact, it should be exciting because if you're working together as one and you're working to get out of debt, your credit reports on an annual basis should look better and better and better. But that's not the case for everybody. All right. Because there are people who are hiding a lot of stuff from each other. It is what it is.
Okay.
And then listen, I'm walking you through. Okay. The next one is you can't have any sort of conversation, any sort of come to Jesus, any sort of healing conversation until he gets his addictions under control.
That is true on that. You can talk about, and we've talked about this before, family. We've talked about it. You know what? That addiction is number one. Oh, so glad I'm not in that. So glad I'm not a part of that anymore with my shopping addiction in my 20s. So glad I'm out of that. Been out of that for decades.
And that might mean rehab. That might mean AA. That might mean Gamblers Anonymous. That might mean he's got to go see a medical doctor because he's got himself hooked on pain pills.
Guys, and this gets expensive. This is where your resources can wind up going. Yeah, I may be able to pay $2,300 a month towards a car for 6 months, but I could be spending that $2,300 a month on medical for a husband that has a gambling addiction or, like he said, pain pill addiction, and we're going to spend all that on rehab. Is that where you want your money to go? These are things that you have to really, really think about. And I read an article once. Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw who you get in a spouse. It is. Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. You can't always, you can't predict what your spouse is going to be like 10, 20, 30, 40 years later.
But any sort of trying to heal this thing and come up with a plan, and he's still using, is a fool's errand. You're wasting your time.
I would not be with someone today that was going to have me spend my monthly retirement savings on their addiction. Can't do it. Sorry. I could love you dearly, but you have an addiction that is going to take the entire family budget. It's going to cost us our retirement. It's going to cost us everything we have financially. And again, I'm talking at 56 when we're supposed to be looking at, saving for retirement, which I started doing. Then I decided to stop it for 6 months so I could get a car and get that paid off. And then I'll just go back to saving for retirement again. There comes a point where you have to ask yourself, what's fair to you and what's fair to your spouse. But when there's an addiction involved, are you ready in your 50s, nearing your 60s, to give up everything you have to try to kick it? I can't say I'm that, is it magnanimous? All right. I couldn't do it.
I know, because I'm a recovering addict.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have to compliment this lady, Jill in Reno, because this is one of the calls where she appears to be taking responsibility. And I think that's absolutely commendable. And Jill, if I could talk to her directly, I would tell her, decide where you're going to put your life energy. Because it isn't just about your life energy, it's also your financial security.
My concern is, so we have $33,000 in credit card debt.
33,000? I thought she said they had like 33,000. Oh wow. Okay, 33,000 in credit.
3,000 of that is in my name only.
Okay, I get it. 33,000 in credit card debt, but 3,000 of it is in her name. Okay, we're gonna play that one more time.
$3,000 in credit card debt. 3,000 of that is in my name only.
But they're married, so it's as good as both of their names, right? If they were to get divorced, I assume a judge would just say split it in most cases.
Hope I don't out myself here.
And it still affects you. I'm pausing it again. And it still affects you. Okay? Yes, 3,000 of it may be in her name and 30,000 of it is in his name, but she's going to have to support him while he's supporting that card at $30,000 and his addiction. It's never as easy as just saying, well, I'm only responsible for 3,000 and he's got 30,000. You're still having to support him. And I'm happy to support him. I will give the clothes off my back to the man I love. All right? But it's still, when you are supporting someone with an addiction, you have, how much supporting of an addiction do you want? Supporting someone with an addiction is very different than supporting someone who's, maybe taking classes, preferably without a student loan, to, increase their earning power, has goals and stuff. But to just support someone who's got this addiction. So I hope she understands, I'm assuming she does, that 30,000 of it may be in his name, but it is their joint debt and she has to support it.
I have a guaranteed income of $3,200. I can't work, but I have a guaranteed income of $3,200 a month.
Okay.
I get that every month.
This couple sounds kind of like a train wreck. I'm sorry.
I was offered a buyout for that. I never took it. So I'm so grateful for that I'm guaranteed that. Mm-hmm. My problem is
a buyout, I'm assuming, is where they said instead of continuing to give you $3,200 a month, I'll just make it up. We'll give you a flat check of $50,000. You just take it and we can stop paying you. She said no to that. And I would agree. I think the monthly annuity style is always better. It's like even when I retire, they gave me a buyout option with a pension instead of saying, hey, Carrie, instead of us giving you a pension until the day you die and until the day your spouse dies, okay, we'll just give you a check for $100,000. Oh, hell no. Absolutely not.
He's in ministry and he signed a covenant with his job, and I'm afraid that when this all clears in his head and he realizes that he can't have this job, or they might ask him to step down.
They have to ask.
We're going to lose.
He has to step.
Oh, hell, there are ministers who have slept with their parishioners, caught it on video, landed it viral on TikTok, and YouTube, and they still holding their job. If I were her, I wouldn't give that too much concern. I'm trying to bring a little humor into this, family. A little bedtime chit-chat humor, okay? Yeah, but in reality, yeah, there's going to be a problem, especially if you have a drug problem and that involves money. By the way, family, did you know you can be a pedophile, you can be a rapist, you can be a murderer, and you can still get federal student loans? Yes, you can. Federal student loans, you can still get them. But if you are caught with so much as the slightest illegal drug conviction, drugs, got a little too much marijuana in your backyard in Oregon, my home state, okay, guess what? You can't apply for federal student loans. Why? Because it deals with money, and people take things, so they need cash to buy drugs, so they steal things. Yeah. Don't believe me? Look it up. Look it up. Those low-life people that are rapists, murderers, and pedophiles, yeah, they can go get federal student loans. Yes. But God help you, you have this, I believe, I know it's a federal drug conviction. I know that for sure. But you get caught with this a little too much, marijuana in the catnip there, you can't apply for student loans. Really and truly. Don't know the absolute fine details of it, but I do know that is definitely an issue on student loans. Federal.
Step down. As a matter of integrity, he's not in shape to lead people.
No, he's not, John. They would not feel safe. I agree, John. I agree. Oh, this is my apple juice.
As a minister right now, period.
This is when the minister needs a minister?
His life is over as a minister? No, but he's got a mess in his home that he has created, and he's got to get that cleaned up.
And like I said, it's a financial risk. Ministers typically don't make that much.
Okay.
And maybe he takes a 6-month leave and he sits down and says, I'm struggling with addiction. I've made some major mistakes, some major like ethical violations of my own home, and I need 6 months to go clean this. Maybe they'll do that.
I think it would be better for him, and I think that's a great idea John has. I think Jill's husband needs to get ahead of the 8 ball. Instead of waiting until the ministry finds out about it through TikTok, I think it would be better for him to sit down with the elders of the church and come clean. You know what I mean? Nothing kills a scandal more than when the person just comes clean and says, hey, it is what it is. Okay. And he sits down and he goes, this is the situation. And I need 6 months, maybe even a year. and works with it that way versus waiting for it to all hit the fan.
Form or something like that. But yeah, this delusion, he's going to take down a whole church with him, and that's not fair to those people.
He's not the leader.
It doesn't matter. I don't care if he's the acolyte. That's the person who goes up, and I used to be an acolyte when I was in junior high and high school. I'd go up and walk up and light one candle, then I'd light the other candle while everybody sang, and all I would do is pray that my hand didn't shake, and I accidentally would snuff out the candle. That sort of thing happens. I liked it. It was one of the more memorable and better parts of my childhood. But it doesn't matter what role he plays in the church. He's not qualified in a leadership role, period. Nor is he trustworthy in a leadership role. That's just the facts. Do you want him collecting the collection plate?
Either way, he's got to come clean about this, because the longer it's like leading a double life in that sense.
And I feel, and I'm discussed. I've kind of tried to discuss it with him. Mm-hmm. My question here's the question. We have a $17,000 camper, or we owe $17,000 on it. I don't want to sell it because I might have to live in it.
Well, she's realistic there. Yep, she might have to live in it. Yeah, she might have to.
I don't think that's true.
Why might you have to live in it?
That's not true.
Oh, John, we can't say it's not true. It's comforting to hear it's not true, but the reality of it is it could be. She's married to a drug addict. He can take down the entire family financially.
Because we won't be able to, we'll drown without him having a job.
Okay. Can I ask the nature of your disability? Are you?
Yeah.
So
I'm 100% disabled.
Okay.
Okay. When I think of 100% disabled, there might be different. I mean, I'm not a disability expert. I think of someone who's short of a quadriplegic. Or is it a quadra or a para? It's the one where all fours, all, arms and legs. I think that's a paraplegic. Okay. That's almost what I think of. A paraplegic, or someone who is so mentally incapable of being able to function that for the safety of themselves, for the safety of their coworkers, they are deemed 100% disabled. So disability doesn't always come in physical form, clearly. Okay. A distant relative years ago, and I'm talking years ago, long past, to give you an idea, was involved in the D-Day World War II invasion. All right. And out of respect to this relative, that's the only way I'm going to identify him. He was involved in the D-Day. Okay. The landing of the boats, D-Day. All right. Came back so mentally. And of course, I wasn't even in the United States at the time. I was born at the time. Okay. But my mother told me, because I kept saying, what happened to this particular relative, and she very briefly, appropriate to a child, because, I was only in high school and she wasn't going to lay out it. She wasn't going to lay it all on the line to a ninth grader. She just simply said, this distant relative was literally one of the people that landed on the beaches. I'm not kidding. I believe it was Normandy. Oh, geez, I hope I'm correct. Forgive me. My history is not that great, but I believe it was Normandy Beach. Okay. Bullets flying over his head. Came back. It's never the same. No physical, limbs were all there. But came back so mentally messed up. I remember I tried to have a conversation with him, and he could have a basic conversation almost like on elementary school level. And when my mom explained that this is what happened, I remember thinking to myself, I don't blame him for coming back like that. And it's been all my respect. So there is that mental disability. That's what I think of when I think of fully disabled.
Okay.
Yeah.
But can he go get a job at McDonald's and y'all get a 1-bedroom apartment?
Well, wait, she never really answered why she couldn't work. Hold on. I didn't ever hear.
Disability? Are you?
Yeah.
So
I'm 100% disabled.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, she apparently doesn't want to discuss it. That's her right. She doesn't have to discuss it. That is her right. But it just leaves us viewers going, all right. That means you're incapable of holding any sort of job, whether it be online, whether it be at home. I don't know.
But can he go get a job at McDonald's and y'all get a 1-bedroom apartment?
Yeah, well, if we sold the house, there's enough equity in my home to pay off everything.
That's all. Yes. So let's don't go caustic, because when we go caustic and we start imagining us walking around in the aftermath of a nuclear strike, we make decisions that don't make a lot of sense. Sell the camper, take the $17,000. You guys got to start paying this stuff off.
These two, we're not going to be using sound effects in this video, folks. Just not appropriate. We always do the tea time part, that part we do, but we're not going to do, sound effects instead. There's some videos I just doesn't seem right. These two have been a train wreck in each other's lives, I suspect, for some time. This is nothing new. This is my suspicion. This isn't something that just started. It isn't something that just happened. I suspect this has been going on for years. Okay. I'm not going to jump about her disability because we don't know. But she seems sane enough to be able to know that something is wrong, to make a call, to have plans to live in a camper. So this tells me she's not totally physically disabled. Look, here's the bottom line. These two have been taking each other down, I suspect, for some time. Taking each other down. Okay? It's just his turn to do it right now. That's kind of the way that's my suspicion. But they have not had a healthy, sustaining relationship in years, if ever.
Well, we just owe $17,000. I won't make any money on the camper.
I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, then you got to stop the bleeding.
What do they have a camper for to begin with? Why do people own campers? Now my parents have a camper. But they also have a 2-acre farm, and they use the camper as a guest house. And trust me, it has come in to save our family many a times when the children come home, want to visit. It's like, we got a camper. Okay, they hook it up to the house and all that. It's been great. But in general, why do people need a camper? Really? Oh, we're going to go camping, to find out they do it twice a year.
You shouldn't have a camper, a $17,000 camper that's a depreciating asset that you're making payments on a fixed income anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And if she has the ability to go camping to begin with, like I said, I'm not knocking her disability. I'm just wondering, if I were to evaluate, and I am certainly no medical person, but could we say she could do something? I mean, is she so totally helpless that I can't bring in a dime? I get 3,300, whatever it was. Okay. Disability, and that's it. I can do no more. Because when you get to that point in your life where you can do no more, then you do become a victim of your situation. Because you can do no more. You become a victim. But if she could do one more thing, one more 5-hour-a-week job, one more 10-hour-a-week job, if she has the ability to live at a camper, the fact that they bought a camper to begin with, okay, I'm not saying I question the 100% disability, as it comes in different forms and different ways. I get it. Okay. But when you allow yourself to say, I am 100% disabled, and you interpret that to yourself, yes, take the disability money if that is rightfully yours. That I am not arguing with. Okay. But what I do question is that really all you can do? Still take the 100% disability money. Don't get me wrong on that. I'm not saying give that up. Keep that. You've earned it for whatever situation you were in. Okay. You are, I just hit my ears on the microphone. You are rightfully entitled to that money. You take the money. But in addition to taking that money, do you have to stop right there, or can you add to those funds? Can you add to it? Because then if you can add to it, you can change your situation dramatically. All right. So you don't sit there, with your hands tied behind your back going, I can do nothing. All I can do is just take this $3,200. That long silence is from the show. It's not me being slow on the trigger. They appear to be in deep thought. Yes, because what I said was profound, I'm sure.
Is that fair?
Nothing's fair in this world.
If this weren't such a serious topic, I would give a round of applause. But this is a serious topic, so we are not going to give a round of applause. Yes, Jill, nothing is fair in this world. Nothing is fair. So what you have to do is you have to figure out how to go out and make the world better, contributing to the betterment of other people's lives.
There you go. Hey, let me say this, Jill, and I'm saying this because I love you, okay? Most people in your situation are trying to walk around, and if you've ever seen somebody in the aftermath after a tornado's come through a town, they'll be picking up like a medicine cabinet and try to start putting it back on the wall. But that wall's the only thing standing. Everything else in the house, it's just how human nature. And you have to come to the grief-filled exhale moment where you drop your shoulders.
And you realize that your marriage is most likely over. Your husband's not going to be able to maintain his job in the ministry unless he takes extreme steps to get ahead of the problem and face it. And even when he faces that problem, you're going to be looking at a loss of income while he is facing that problem.
And you fall down on your knees and you internalize everything about your life is different now. Mm-hmm. And so there's not going to be a world but we hang on to the camper. Everything's different now.
You want to become debt free? You want to reach debt freedom? Get to a point where I'm at, where I live on 38.5%. I actually did the math. I live on 38.5% of my income. Okay. Which I will go back to that once the car is paid off. Got to get over everything in, the world is not fair. It's not fair that you married someone who became an addict. It's not fair that you married someone who just sees you as an ATM over time. It's not fair that, you are with someone who just doesn't see money or value over the long term, the same things you value. Life isn't fair. It's not fair that some people are born in Haiti and other people are born just on the other side in the DR, the Dominican Republic. Okay, separated by nothing but some walls and gates. Life is not fair. And if Jill is unable to accept that life is not fair, just like John was saying, she's going to try to hold on to that camper because that's her small way of trying to keep life fair to her. I've lost everything else. The least I can do is lose my camper. No, Jill, you may have to lose your camper too, sweetie. It's not fair, in my opinion, that, I basically, I had a relationship that didn't work out. Okay. That's not fair, even though I tried really hard, did my best. It wasn't good enough. Things in life just aren't fair. But if you want to reach debt freedom, you have to be able to cross over that to the point where you're not angry about it anymore, to the point where you don't wallow in it and you allow it to consume you. Because if Jill can't get over that life isn't fair, and I'm sure she's thought that thought many, many times, she's going to be trying to hold on to stuff that makes her think life is fair. But as a result, she's never going to get herself into a better place because she won't give up the things that are hurting her financially or emotionally. And that may mean giving up her husband and giving up the camper. Just keeping it real, folks. I'm keeping it real. Okay? You can't reach debt freedom if you remain upset that you got dumped in a relationship. You can't reach debt freedom if you hold on to things that financially hurt you, that emotionally hurt you, because you're trying to keep the playing field balanced. Sometimes the playing field just has to, sometimes that pool table, or what is it, the card table just has to totally flip on the floor and it has to be rebuilt. And sometimes it can be easier to flip everything on the floor and rebuild it than it is to try to keep patching all the pieces together. It can be harder. There comes a point where doing the patch job is harder than saying, you know what, we just need to start this all over again from top to bottom.
There's not a world where, but you still need to make this much money and we're going to keep this house. It sounds like everything's over. Everything's different now. It's not over.
I'm going to leave. Well, hold on. Let's finish what George was going to say. Hold on.
over, but it's just going to be different for a while.
And she may have to accept that certain parts of her life are over. Okay, I'm going to end the video here. She might have to accept that certain parts of her life are over. And the sooner she can accept that, the better, the more quickly she can make decisions that will improve her life. Okay, when you are dealing with an addict, and I believe she said she was a former addict, so she knows. It would be like me being with a shopaholic, or, recognizing, oh my God, I recognize these signs and symbols. I'm with a shopaholic. We got problems. Okay, I know where it's headed. And at this stage of my life, I'm not equipped to deal with it. And Jill may have to decide if she's equipped to deal with it too.